The story begins with the destruction of a planet by an outside force. This force then sets off on a new course, first passing the moon and then entering the Earth's atmosphere. In Japan, it zips past a bay, dropping fishermen in a vessel and completely freezing the sea. This alien also passes over Egypt very quickly, causing the surroundings to cool down and snow to fall on the tourists. Finally, it passes over Los Angeles, causing all electricity in the city to suddenly go out. The next day, the news reports that all flights have been delayed due to a power outage across the entire west coast of the United States. Then comes the news of Reed and Sue's wedding. Johnny takes photos with fans, while Ben is surrounded by children. Reed reassures Sue that they won't postpone the wedding because of these strange events happening around the world. Then they board the plane. Ben struggles through it. Reed takes advantage of his flexibility to pack his bag. Johnny tells them they need a private jet now and gets off the plane. When the plane takes off, we see him flying in flames and saluting Ben from the window. Ben gets angry and wishes for rain. Scientists cannot pinpoint the exact cause of snow falling on the pyramids and the freezing seas in Japan. When Sue has something work-related and sees Reed isn't paying attention, she disappears his phone. She also tells him they have a lot to do for the wedding. Meanwhile, Johnny arrives and shows him his new sponsored uniform. He notices one of Reed's works that he's covering up, but Reed, whose flexibility allows him to move his fingers very quickly on the phone, tells him not to lift the cover. He then tells Johnny, after Sue leaves, that he's analyzing global disturbances, claiming they're caused by the same cosmic radiation that gave them their superpowers. Johnny doesn't seem to care and announces that he wants to throw a bachelor party. Seeing Reed's reluctance, he threatens to tell his sister Sue that he's investigating these events instead of wedding preparations and convinces him to throw the party. We see the alien continue its advance and pass over Latveria. Doom, who is being held there, opens his eyes for this reason. They arrive at the party and women surround Johnny and Reed, while Ben goes to get drinks and dances. General Hager and his entourage enter the Baxter building and, ignoring the employee's warning, board the elevator. They are greeted by Sue's hologram secretary, then Sue herself. General Hager insists they want to see Reed. Ben belches on the one next to him. Meanwhile, Reed is talking to the women about the beginning of the universe, and despite his reluctance, he attempts to dance at their insistence. He hesitates at first, but then, using his flexibility, he begins to dance with abandon. Unfortunately, Sue and the general arrive. Johnny and Ben try to stay out of sight. Reed greets the general and tries to explain the situation to Sue, but to no avail. The general explains that he came here on the orders of the Joint Chief of Staff and shows him a photo taken by spy satellites of the events of the past few days. Reed says he's never seen anything like it before, and Ben says it cannot be a meteor. They then show them the 200-meter-wide craters that have appeared around the world. The general states that they must find the object. Reed suggests a sensor be connected to the Baxter building satellite grid, but he says he can't build the sensor because he has a wedding coming up and gives them the name of one of his professor friends. The general, disappointed at Reed, leaves with his team. Johnny, who has been trying to make eye contact with Captain Ray throughout the entire incident, goes to her on the way out and tries to meet her, but is only met with a cold soldier attitude. Sue softens her tone at Reed for turning down this project for their wedding and isn't so mad at him for having fun at the party. Doom throws an employee who helps him remove his mask into a corner after he is finished. He takes off his mask in pain. Reed is caught by Ben and Johnny building the sensor the general wanted and asks them not to tell Sue. Reed and Sue's wedding, dubbed the Wedding of the Century, arrives and makes headlines everywhere with fans surrounding the building. Johnny initially asks the reporters to respect their privacy, but then reveals he's joking and promises exclusive wedding photos will be given to the highest bidders. Wedding preparations are underway, and guests have begun to arrive. Meanwhile, Sue looks out the window, expressing her sadness at having to raise even her children in such a circus in the future. However, Alicia reassures her that it's normal to have such feelings on the wedding day, emphasizing that the important thing is for the couple to love each other. Ben goes to Reed and tells him he'll be late for his own wedding. Reed tells him he'll be right there, and speaking to the general via screen call, tells him he set the sensor online and will now be aware of any surgent cosmic radiation. The general says, "Let's hope so," and ends the call. Ben tells Reed he needs to shave and put on his tuxedo. Reed is so excited, realizes that he's finally getting married and he can't even stand on his feet. While helping Ben get ready, Alicia realizes Johnny has arrived, even though she can't see. When Johnny sees her leave, he asks Ben how they did it because he doesn't want to see Alicia die from a rock slide one day. As this angers him, he runs away from him.
Having infiltrated the United States spy satellite, Doom sharpens the image and sees this Silver Surfer a little more clearly, wondering what it is. While Alicia and Johnny are talking, Ben and Sue arrive. Left alone with Sue, Johnny tells her she's beautiful and hugs her. The wedding is about to begin, and Ben and Alicia arrive. The sensor alerts Reed from his phone, but Johnny and Sue begin walking, so Reed puts it back in his pocket. The priest's speech is interrupted by a helicopter congratulating the bride and groom. As the priest continues his speech, Reed's phone beeps again. Sue gets angry, but Reed tells them they need to hurry. The alert then goes off again and the power goes out across the city. The helicopter loses power, spins uncontrollably, descends, and crashes into the wedding venue. Reed quickly saves a couple, while Sue uses a surge of power to stop the helicopter. Ben, at the last moment, jumps in front of Alicia, grabs the helicopter by the tail, and tears it apart. Reed, seeing the Silver Surfer fly overhead, turns to Johnny. Johnny jumps off the building, bursts into flames, and flies away.
Sue sits in the middle of a ruined wedding, crying. Johnny continues his pursuit, but the Silver Surfer is incredibly fast, maneuvering between buildings with agile moves. When he reaches a large building, he enters the structure as if nothing had happened and emerges at the other end. Johnny, unable to hide his shock, continues his pursuit. They descend, close enough to shatter the windows of a building, flip cars on the street, and enter a tunnel. The Silver Surfer looks back and accelerates. Johnny weaves between cars. Surfer flips over his surfboard, then enters and exits a bus without harming it. Johnny is caught off guard by this, colliding with the vehicles and being thrown into the side of the tunnel. But he continues his chase. They soar over the sea, perform a high maneuver, damaging a monument and circling it. Johnny grows tired of the chase and accelerates even faster, reaching his target, but the Silver Surfer suddenly turns around and grabs him by the throat, begins to rise, and lets go when Johnny's flames are extinguished, ensuring he is given up. Barely regaining consciousness, Johnny tries to start a fire again, but fails and ends up in the desert, inside a native tent. He climbs out of the burning tent and sees a camel on top. The Silver Surfer stops his flight, looks into the distance of space and says, "Your herald summons you. Another world awaits. Let it be done quickly," and finishes his sentence by kneeling before continuing his flight again. Johnny tells the others what he saw, that the alien was in a human body shape. Reed tries to deduce the anomalies caused by the alien they called the Silver Surfer, explaining that he even detected and destroyed the sensor because he didn't want to be followed. Johnny stands up and says he wants to walk a bit. General Hager tells Reed to find another way to track the alien, then leaves with his team. Reed goes straight to Sue and apologizes for not telling her about the sensor. When she assures him it was the right thing to do, he feels relieved and turns back. Sue stops him with a force field, telling him she's not finished yet. She laments that they won't be able to have a normal life if they keep doing what they're doing, but then leaving the topic for another time, she goes to her brother. While searching for her brother, she sees from the window him falling. Johnny tries to get up from where he fell with the help of those around him. Sue goes to his aid, and when she touches him, she suddenly bursts into flames and flies into the air. Johnny says he'll get her down immediately and tries to catch fire, but he becomes invisible. People walking around start hitting him. Suspended in midair, Sue shouts for Reed inside the building, asking him for help. Reed goes down to the street and asks Sue what happened. When he learns this happened when she and Johnny touched each other, he tells them to touch again and their powers switch back. Sue is naked where she fell and has to become invisible.
Reed examines Sue's molecules, but reveals that Johnny's are in a constant state of flux. When he suggests further testing, Ben volunteers and touches Johnny, restoring his normal body. This time, Johnny transforms into a stone form and angrily tells Ben that this situation is serious. Ben relishes this and, testing his newfound strength, throws fire at Johnny. Unable to bear it any longer, Johnny touches Ben, returning to his normal state. Reed warns Johnny that he should stay away from them while he performs the tests. The Silver Surfer continues his flight. When the news shows Sue's wedding as a fiasco and mentions Reed's dancing, Reed turns off the television and tells Sue not to watch this kind of stuff, but Sue says there's no escaping them. Johnny overhears the conversation before entering the room and immediately runs away. Reed suggests to Sue that they leave the Baxter building and start a normal life after all this is over. Sue, impressed that he would do such a thing, hugs him. Johnny overhears this before leaving. Sue says they better not mention it to Ben and Johnny just yet. We see a helicopter belonging to Von Doom's company traveling through Greenland, eventually reaching a massive crater. Meanwhile, the Silver Surfer is navigating the glaciers. Dr. Doom approaches the crater and, after assuring that the suddenly appearing Silver Surfer understands him, he proposes that they form an invincible alliance together. The alien tells him that everything he knows is about to end and turns away. Unable to bear this humiliation, Dr. Doom attacks him, but then he is sent into the snow by the alien's counterattack. He then sees his burned skin begin to heal. Johnny, angry and a little hurt, tells Ben and Alicia what he heard. Ben also gets angry, but Alicia says Reed and Sue have a right to make a choice like that. Meanwhile, Reed arrives and tells them there's a problem. He tells them he cross-referenced the Surfer's radiation all over the universe and that all the planets he visited were destroyed after 8 days. Ben asks how they'll find the alien, and Sue asks about the craters. Reed explains that they appear in numerical sequence and by entering the data determines the location of the next one. As the Fantastic Four ride in the Army helicopter, Reed tells the others how they will fight the Surfer with their teamwork. But when Johnny hears this, he says he knows he and Sue are considering leaving the team. The group argues with each other. The general calms them down. At a point visible to civilians across the city, a massive crater begins to form in the river. It suddenly expands, damaging surrounding objects and people. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four arrive, and Sue tries to hold back the falling Ferris wheel, filled with people, with a force field she created. Ben provides support from below, while Reed ties the Ferris wheel to the center from which it emerged, forming his body like a rope. The civilians below escape. Meanwhile, Johnny wants to chase after the Silver Surfer that emerged from the crater, but is thrown when a broken rope hits him, so he strikes Reed and they exchange powers. Johnny falls to the ground, Reed is suspended in flames, and with his support gone, Sue and Ben struggle to hold on to the Ferris wheel. Sue is even forced to walk on air. Reed tells Ben to lift it a little higher and he uses his own method of welding the center, throwing fire onto it as it settles. The civilians are reunited with their loved ones, while Ben and Sue are trying to catch their breaths. Reed regains his power by touching Johnny and rushes to Sue's side. He yells at Johnny. They stare at the river, which has completely frozen over with a giant crater in the middle.
General Hager is furious with the Fantastic Four, saying they won't be able to do this alone because of what happened. Meanwhile, Dr. Doom arrives and Ben pounces on him the moment he sees him. When the general reveals that he summoned him, Ben is forced to abandon his old enemy. Reed asks how he survived. Doom replies that that's not the point. Even if they hate each other, they must work together to save the world. He then shows them his contact with the alien. Since they do not notice at first, he tells the others that the alien took the energy from his surfboard when it hit him, so they need to separate Surfer from his surfboard. Ben and Johnny hang out at the bar, discussing having to work with Victor again. Meanwhile, Johnny extinguishes a small fire he started on a dart. He then asks Ben what he wants to do in his final moment if the world really is going to end and they can't prevent it. Stone Man replies that he would hold Alicia in that situation. While conducting research, Reed becomes stressed by the responsibility he bears. Sue tries to calm him down by telling him he needs to control his pulse. Reed immediately thinks of a tachyon pulse and thanks Sue for it. Doom, who had been watching Reed at work, also moves to a computer and checks on him out of the corner of his eye. Reed shows General the results of his work, stating that activating the field will separate the Surfer from his surfboard. Sue is upset when he explains that since he's working alone, the equipment will need 3 hours to be operational. She sees Doom working in a corner and asks him why he's not helping Reed in the lab. Without showing her his work, Doom tells her he'll finish Reed's little project before he even knows. Captain Ray tells Johnny, who is coming out of the shower, that they will be going to intercept the Surfer in 10 minutes. When she sees him flirting with her, she tells him that when she looks at him, she sees someone who almost got his team killed. A base has been established in Germany's Black Forest, and Captain Ray informs the general of the Surfer's location, which is close to their base. When Reed and his team tell him they need a 1-mile perimeter, the general gets angry and tells them they've squandered their chance earlier, and this time, after jamming the signal, he shouldn't be in their way. Angered by this, Reed tells him that thanks to his team, they've found a solution, demanding a little more respect. The general relents and tells his soldiers to give the Fantastic Four what they want. Doom overhears this from above. Johnny happily embraces Reed.
When the Fantastic Four arrive near the crater, they split up to set up their posts and regroup. Meanwhile, Doom and his team are advancing from another location. Sue, Johnny, and Reed are setting up their equipment and performing final procedures. Ben, having proceeded in the same manner, scares off a bear that approaches him by roaring at it. While the team is communicating, the Silver Surfer arrives at Sue's location. She alerts the others and creates a shield field around herself. The surfer easily passes through the shield and approaches her. When the woman asks him why he is destroying their planet, he tells her he has no choice, as he is not the destroyer. He easily blocks with his surfboard the attack of Dooms, who convinces the general to launch a missile. Before doing so, he interestingly stands in front of Sue, as if protecting her. He then evades the army's increasingly accelerated attack and destroys all the vehicles with a single move. Sue returns to the equipment. Reed, having stopped Johnny from moving on his own, activates the signal when he sees Sue finally set up the equipment and manages to separate the surfer from his surfboard. Silver Surfer tries to hold on to his board but can't, and his complexion fades when he's separated from it. Doom zaps him with an electric shock. The Fantastic Four arrive, followed by Doom's team and the army as well.
We see the surfer being taken to Siberia. When Reed tells him their agreement was not like this, the general declares the alien captured and the mission a success. He and a man he calls Mr. Sherman attend the surfer's interrogation. Meanwhile, Doom learns from the general and his team that the board is being held in a chamber. Mr. Sherman tells Surfer that what he will do to him won't be considered a crime because he's not human. The Fantastic Four assess the situation in a room where they are under surveillance. After discussing the surfer's move to protect Sue and his claim that he is not the destroyer, they conclude they need to talk to him. Johnny asks the soldier at the door for something to kill time inside. Meanwhile, we see Sue emerge invisible. She looks over the wall and sees the surfer being tortured. When the general learns Doom wants to see him, he tells Mr. Sherman to take a break. The surfer is exhausted but still realizes Sue is there. The woman asks him for his name but gets no response. She says she will help him but needs answers. The surfer describes the being he serves through the shapes he creates on his abdomen. He explains that his people call it Galactus, the devourer of worlds, and that it survives by feeding on thermal and organic energy. He explains that his service keeps his planet and the person he loves alive, and that he protected Sue earlier because she reminded him of her. Sue, hearing a soldier approaching, turns invisible again and continues talking. The surfer explains that the board, which he calls Beacon, is what lures the destroyer here, and that they have a few hours left. We see the destroyer arrive at Saturn and head towards Earth. Doom reminds the general that they made a deal, and the general responds by saying he can work on the board, but he has to be there too. He leads him through the door. The Fantastic Four say they must get the board away from here before it's too late. Doom takes down the general and his soldiers and gets his mask again. Ben calls the soldier at the door to him. Doom puts his mask on, summons the board with his pulse emitter, and mounts it, gaining even more power. He freezes the general who shot him, disintegrating him in a single move. The wall, shattered by the energy wave he unleashed, is hurled at the Fantastic Four. Johnny and Sue escape the wall, but Ben and Reed are trapped under it, yet they escape unharmed. The Fantastic Four race straight to the room where the board is, but realize they're too late. Since the surfer knows the board best, they decide to kidnap him as well. Reed summons the new device he had been working on. After neutralizing the soldiers, they kidnap the surfer, but they encounter Captain Ray. Johnny convinces her that the general has been killed and that she should trust them. They climb to the top of the building, and Johnny and Ben, upon seeing the approaching vehicle, are delighted and want to drive it themselves. Reed ends their argument and says he will. Johnny follows them engulfed in flames.
Reed locks on Victor's energy trail, seeing that he is headed over southeast China. The Silver Surfer tells Sue his name is Norrin Rod. Sue responds by saying they will need his help to save their world. At that moment, their flight vehicle's screen breaks, and Doom, appearing from nowhere, deals them a blow. Reed says the destroyer is coming here because of the board, but seeing that he can't convince him, he dives onto the river to escape. Doom neutralizes Johnny, who's flying towards him, by lifting the water into the air and attacks the Fantastic Four's flight vehicle. Reed declares they must split the vehicle into 3 pieces. Doom tries to block them by smashing through the mountain rocks, but they all manage to escape. Doom then pursues Sue and the surfer, trying to tear them down by breaking the ground. Reed extends his arm at the last moment to save them, and Ben seizes the opportunity and strikes Doom. As Reed tries to persuade him, Johnny arrives and they all surround him. Doom spins in place, spinning them all around in a tornado he creates, then sends them flying. They all crash into the street, destroying the surrounding area. When Sue wakes up, she sees the surfer already on his feet and Doom is about to attack him. She quickly runs in front of him and creates a protective field, but she can't block Doom's spear, which impales her. The others rush to Sue's side to check on her, but she tells them they need to retrieve the board. At that moment, the destroyer appears in the sky, determined to devour the world. Ben brings Reed back to his senses. Reed says Victor's got to have a pulsometer linking him to the board. They decide they need to get close to him, and Johnny suggests that only one of them will be able to reach him more easily. Reed warns that this could be dangerous, but he agrees, and Johnny places his hand on theirs. The destroyer is devouring the world while Doom watches. Suddenly, Johnny appears right beside him, and as Ben says, he says, "Clobbering time," using a combination of powers from others, throws Doom onto a building. Ben, returned to his normal body, hears the commotion. Doom counterattacks by flying through the buildings, smashing the surrounding debris, and hurls it at Johnny. Johnny grabs a pole and spins, using the momentum to fly back toward Doom. Meanwhile, Ben hastily climbs a crane. Johnny unleashes a fireball at Doom, turning invisible, and begins punching him in a snake-like grip. He increases his heat, squeezes him even tighter, disrupts the pulsometer, forcing the board to fall. He then pulls his body back, spins Doom in his place. Ben seizes the opportunity and quickly maneuvers the crane and sends Doom deep into the ocean. Johnny approaches the others and touches them, granting them their powers. Sue dies. Watching all this, the surfer summons his board, mounts it, and regains his former form. He places his hand on Sue, and we see his own skin pale. He urges Reed to tell her that she was right, that we have a choice, and he begins to ascend. The Reed looks helplessly at Sue and sees her come back to life. The surfer, trying to approach the destroyer, struggles due to the flying debris. Johnny appears behind him and starts helping him move forward. The surfer enters the vortex and continues his advance. Ben and Reed realize this isn't working and decide they're too late. The surfer finally reaches the destroyer's heart, declares he will no longer serve him, and bows. With the immense power he has gathered within his body, he rises to his feet, unleashing a powerful wave, destroys the destroyer, and a massive explosion occurs. The citywide blackout ends and the lights come back on. Sue opens her eyes and asks Reed what she missed. Ben congratulates Johnny, who has flown over, and pats him on the back. Seeing that his powers haven't changed, Johnny kisses Ben's head with joy. He runs to Sue and hugs his sister. The team is overjoyed to be reunited. Ben and Johnny think the team will be disbanded, but Reed and Sue say they've given up on that, saying that without this team, the world would be destroyed, and that they don't need to live a normal life to have a family. We then see Reed and Sue performing their wedding ceremony according to Chinese tradition. Ben and Alicia, Johnny, and Captain Ray are also present. During the ceremony, Reed's phone beeps again, and he learns that Venice is sinking into the Adriatic. Sue urges the priest to speed up. After instructing them to wear the ring, the old man pronounces them man and wife and lets them kiss each other. The Fantastic Four then immediately head for their vehicle to depart. Sue throws the flower in the direction of the women, but Johnny, realizing Ray is about to grab it, lights it. The Fantastic Four get into their vehicle and take off. They split into 3 pieces, forming their symbol in the sky, and continue on their way. We then see the Silver Surfer and his board hurtling through the void of space, and the story ends here.